today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Budapest here in Central Europe. I hope everybody is having a good weekend, staying safe, strong, and productive. Hi Roshni, hi Toby, hi Shuvaraj. Please don't spam Shuvaraj. Davud Beck. Nice to see many students. Janil, Natalie, Milind, Ois. Good to see our members in the class also. In this class, everyone, we are going to cover a speaking part 2 cue card. I will explain the strategy and the steps you need to focus, plan, and hopefully get a band 9 on your speaking interview. This lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. Use the premium package, use our services. For general IELTS, visit us at IELTShelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. Again, lots of help there for you, including free speaking with other IELTS students with video and audio chat. This is a speaking class, so make sure to speak and repeat. So when you hear me say new words, make sure to say them, use them, write them down. All right, everyone. Just a quick peek at our websites so you know what I'm talking about. This is the academic IELTS website here at aehelp.com. You can click that big red button to join us there. And for the general version, it's the green background. You can click that big red button and join us there. If you ever have some questions, by all means, contact me. You can reach me at Adrian at aehelp.com, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Students, our live classes usually go from Wednesday until Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We have no live class, but we often upload new HD videos to the channel, so make sure to take a look for those. In fact, you will have a brand new speaking interview to check out tomorrow with a really good follow-up lesson. So make sure to look at that follow-up lesson. Hi, Abhishek. Hi, Carolina. And welcome, Bekjan, as well. Students, so again, speaking part 2 today. And then the next class will be on the 16th, which will be a Wednesday. Okay, just copy paste, that'll be faster. And then on the 16th, we will start the week off with speaking part 1. And that'll be at the same time as this class. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I take a break. And then on the 16th, I'm back at you with some speaking part 1 for everyone. Okay, so let's take a look at today's speaking part 2 cue card. We'll discuss it. We'll talk about how to plan, how to get a good idea, develop your critical, analytical thinking, your visualization, your imagination, and we'll get into it. All right, so here we go. Step number 1, always, students, when the examiner says, okay, that's the end of part 1. Now we will continue with part 2. For part 2, here's a card with some questions. You will have 1 minute to look at the card and the questions. Here's some note paper. Here's a pencil. You will have that 1 minute also to take notes if you wish. And then you will have 2 minutes to speak. I will tell you when to start, when to stop. So you got 1 minute, 60 seconds to get ready. And it's a very valuable, that's the most crucial 1 minute in your 15-minute interview. So of all of those 15 minutes or 12 or 14 minutes that you sit there with the examiner, that 1 minute preparation time is the most crucial 1 minute. So you have to make use of it. Okay, you have to know exactly what to do. Now is not the time to get scared or panic. Doesn't matter what the card has on it. Take a deep breath and remember strategy. Amanjad says, read the card carefully. Yeah, absolutely. Read the card carefully, and especially this topic, sentence, question, read it twice, okay? So talk about a useful idea that you learned in school, okay? Read that one more time just to be 100% clear on that. Talk about a useful idea that you learned in school, not somebody else, not your brother, but you. and it has to be an idea. Of course, everything we learn in school is some kind of an idea, and it has to be a useful idea, so something that has utility. Of course, try to think of an idea that you can directly relate to, directly apply in your real life, okay? And then pay attention to the other questions as well. You should say, what was the idea? When and where did you learn it? Who taught it to you? And how have you used it in your life? So what have you done with this idea? So Abhishek says right away, I'm recognizing that this is an idea that I have to deal with, and I have to focus on the past tense. Absolutely. Good job, Abhishek. So you're getting the strategy, and this is happening very quickly in the first couple seconds. So step 1, read the question carefully. The topic, question or statement twice, just to be absolutely clear. The other reason I tell you to read that topic, question, or statement twice is because it helps you to slow down a bit. Sometimes what students do is they really rush and then they fall apart. This is where many of the students become the rabbit instead of the turtle in the speaking interview. So they get frustrated, they can't think of the idea, they're writing down all kinds of notes all over the place, and that's not the right strategy, okay? So you want to be the turtle, and becoming the turtle, it helps to read the question twice carefully, okay? All right, and then step 2 is identify the category and tense or tenses of the question, okay? In this case, in our example, the category is idea and the tense is past, okay? So you know that you have to use past, past progressive, present and past perfect. So all of those should be somewhere in your speaking to make it nice and complex and high level so that you can get those band 9s, right? Welcome, Kyber. I think I haven't seen you in a while. I think I remember you saying you had something else going on, something personal. So good to see you in class, Kyber. All right, so this is what we're dealing with. Now, of course, we want to remember that when we're responding to an idea, to respond accurately, we have to include some important information, okay? And Rajveer is on top of it. Beautiful. I love seeing our students really getting the hang of this. So yeah, you want to know the time of the idea. So when did it happen? You want to know the reasons for the idea. Yeah, that's very good. And you'll see, Rajveer, that thinking about the reasons actually comes in really useful for this question. Then the requirements of the idea, right? What was needed? So you had to be in the school, you had to be in this class, you had to meet this teacher. The requirements, the purpose is the same, Rajveer, as the reasons. So the time of the idea, the reasons, the requirements, the results, and improvements. Yeah, maybe you were able to learn a little bit since you used this idea to make it even better. You might want to put that in there, especially if you have some more time, right? So the time, the reasons, the requirements, the results, and the improvement, that's what you need to think about when you're telling another person about an idea. So you can think about that if you've got a business idea and you're creating a business proposal, same kind of approach, all right? So time, reasons, requirements, results. And yeah, the importance and purpose kind of fit with reasons, okay? So it's good. All right, good, fantastic. Step number 3 is what? What should I come up with for step number 3? And I bet I'm going to have a lot of students here going, I know this because I'm practicing it and you've taught us this before. Kyber says, come up with ideas. Yeah, that's right, Kyber. Come up with ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Carolina says, think of two or three possible choices. So think of 2 to 3 possible choices that can work well and are easy to talk about. Okay, so let's do that, everyone. Let's quickly try to think of 2 to 3 good ideas that we may have come across in school, which are very useful in life for you, that you can use and that you can talk about. So visualize. Think about the different courses, right? So here I would think of biology, mathematics, economics, psychology, lots of different courses in school, lots of ideas that we can learn in those courses. Think about some of the ones that could be really useful for life, okay? So Roshni says, to learn English, sure. So to learn fluent English. Yeah, that would be a good idea. So maybe one of your teachers encouraging you to learn English well. Okay. Hassan says, taking an MBA course. So taking an MBA course. Yeah, that's a nice specific idea that could be very useful in life. Rajveer says, financial management. Budgeting. Okay. Yeah, I think that's very good. Okay. Now, students, be careful here. It's an idea and not a skill. Okay. So this is where you want to be very careful. You are not talking about a skill that you learned in school, but rather an idea that you got from school. These are not the same. Okay, this is where you have to be really careful to distinguish. Okay, so having the idea to learn English is an idea as long as you explain that, or getting the idea from your high school business teacher to learn an MBA, that's an idea, or having the idea to focus on financial management and budgeting in your personal idea, that could be an idea, but it's not a skill. Okay, so careful with that, right? Okay, Carolina says, very good one, Carolina. I like it. That would be original, and that could be really good. Okay, so home economics class, right? Write down my grandma's recipes and sell them as a cookbook. Oh, Carolina, I don't know how Grandma would like you telling the world about her secret cookie recipe, but it's a great idea, okay? All right? So I love the idea. I think it's fantastic, all right? Okay, let's see. Beckjohn says to study abroad after graduation. That would be a really good one as well. Okay, that's an idea. So students who would start talking about a skill that you learned in school here, you'd be off topic. Okay, so you have to be really careful. Pay attention, all right? One that I would come up with here as well is maybe something like to invest in the stock market from business class. All right, so that's one that would pop into my mind, taking a page out of my life. Okay. All right, we'll just stick with these 3 for now. Okay, I'm going to simplify our voting strategy for today, and we'll get going on our answer. Writing Grandma's recipe book from home economics, going abroad to continue studies from our English teacher in English class, or to invest in the stock market from business class. Think about also being able to talk about it. So not just it's a good idea, but you can talk about it easily. All right, Janiel says 3, Kyber says 2. We've got some 1s and some 2s. Okay. Good. So yeah, we have a lot of 1s and we have a lot of 2s as well. It looks like 2 is kind of the dominant force. I'm going to do a little bit of veto, and it's because I think a lot of people are also voting number 1. I'm going to choose number 1 instead of number 2. Okay, so, and there's a reason for that. Okay, it's not just to be mean. I think there's a good balance between 2 and 1. If I wrote down these 3 ideas in my exam, why would I maybe choose 1 instead of 2? What would be my logic? Why? Why choose 1 instead of 2? What do you think? Aha, Hassan very quickly said that because it's more unique, right? So number 1 is not only relatively easy to talk about, okay, if you can talk a little bit about food and cooking, it's relatively easy to talk about and it's unique, okay? IELTS speaking examiners love to hear original answers. They are really tired of hearing people say things like, thank you for letting me talk about some ideas that I learned in my school. The one I would like to talk about today is going to study English abroad, which I came up with after my grade 12 English class. Okay, it's not bad. You could do it. You could still get a good mark, but it's not as original. Okay, if I'm the examiner and I have another student who comes at me with one of the best ideas I got from my high school was to write down my grandma's recipes and sell it as a cookbook, I'd be like, woohoo, that's a really interesting idea. I'd love to hear more about it. Okay, so number 1, let's go with it. All right, this would be less unique. This is definitely more unique. Okay, I think everybody kind of got that, right? Okay, so, and we can really be imaginative here. Okay. So now, for the next step, of course, we want to come up with some notes, some useful notes, okay? You should always have notes ready in your speaking. You should use your notes. You should use the card. That's really important, okay? All right, so always take some useful notes. Use them, okay? Students, there are so many candidates that write down notes in the 1 minute, and then when we're interviewing them, they start speaking and they get stuck and they're not looking at their notes, they're just stuck, they're frozen, and as the examiner, we want to be like, but we can't do that. We can't hint. We can't even hint to, hey, look at your notes, okay? But the examiners are screaming inside, look at your notes, look at the card. There's questions there, okay? So use the notes, use the card. Especially if you're stuck. Which hopefully you won't be, but especially if you're stuck. And then sometimes we even see students after they finish and we say, can I have the notes back? Then they realize they had the notes there and you see their eyes open up and they're like, oh, I had notes there. I totally forgot that point. You can see what's going on in their head. They're like, I totally forgot that point that I wrote down. And it's like, what do you do? All right. Use your notes. Okay. I can't emphasize that enough. It happens all the time that students don't use the card and their notes, okay? So, step 4, useful notes. Okay, don't write down ideas and words that you're going to have in your head anyway. All right, so give me some useful notes. Now, when you're giving me useful notes, keep in mind the original sequence of talking about ideas. So when you're doing the notes, think about the time first, then the reasons, then the requirements, then the results, then how you can even improve on it. Okay? Aditya, if you're doing your exam soon, I guess you are from the chat. Good luck. Double thumbs up. All right. So let's let's get into some useful notes. So first of all, give me some notes about time. So what would be some good ideas? Always don't jump to the taste yet. Okay, that's going to be the reason. Think about the time. Okay, when did this happen? And by the way, of course, you realize that that's in the questions. When, where, okay? So time. Carolina says, in 2000 during home economics class, not economics class, Carolina, careful. It's home economics or cooking class, usually called home economics. Okay? So, in 2000, home economics. Okay? Good? All right? High school, Mahbuba says, sure. All right? In elementary school, Toby, wow, that would be impressive. I would probably go for high school. Home economics, usually it's in high school. Okay. Paban says maybe when I was in college in my first year, that would work too. Okay, so that's when. Now you could do a little bit more here with the when. Okay. So can you do a little bit more with the when here? Can be creative. So, okay, we have the date and the time specifically. Can you think of the situation when it happened? Okay, so be visual here. So you're picturing yourself, you're in cooking class, and what's going on? Okay, what is the exact moment when this idea is born? Okay, so I would say something like cooking competition. Maybe you had some kind of a cooking competition or a taste test in your cooking class, and the teacher was just like, wow, that's the best chocolate chip cookie I've ever tasted in my life. Okay? I think somebody was asking, how do you become a member of the channel? There's a join button beside the subscribe button. If you don't see it, send me an email. I'll help you out more, okay? So Paban says, during a seminar, that could work, Paban. Yeah, so think of the exact location, okay? Bella says, it was when we were talking about original cooking recipes. Yeah, that could be it also, okay? Mahbuba says a taste test with local professional chefs. That could be a good one too, okay? So those are all good. All right. So now we've covered time a little bit. Reasons. So what are the reasons for this? So why did you have this idea? Think about the reasons. Give me some reasons, okay? Let's all try to kind of become uniform here. So it was in 2000, home economics, cooking competition, reason for it. What was the reason for this idea? LePay says to make money, pay for tuition. Okay, those are good. Niash says it was fun. Fun project. How about in honor of grandma? Okay. To have a keepsake, a memory in honor of grandma. Maybe you named the cookbook Grandma's Secret Recipes. Okay. All right. Teacher said best cookies. Ever. Sure. Okay. So these are some usable notes. Millen says to make grandma proud. Sure. Okay. So lots of good ideas, right? You're going through this quickly. You're visualizing. So we've got the reasons. What are the requirements? So what do we need for this idea? So what was needed other than, of course, the situation? Romaine says to share culture. Yeah, sure. That could be as well. Share culture and cuisine. Okay. So what did you need to do this? Okay. Catherine says ingredients and info from grandma, right? If it's grandma's recipes. So yeah, information and ingredients. So you had to maybe interview your grandmother, type down all of her recipes, ask her the steps, right? The method of cooking. Absolutely. What else did you need? Needed a computer. Type and edit. Okay. If you want to make a book, what else do you need? Okay, gather pictures. Right? Visualize it. See the book. Okay. You maybe needed publishing. Okay, good. All right. What were the results? So what did you make in the end? Getting this idea. So remember, the focus is still the idea. What was the result of this idea? Okay. So in the end, what happened? Did it get published? Did it get used? Was it a bestseller? Think about all of these questions. You're coming up with it, and you can definitely use your ideas. So Roshni says 1,000 copies sold. Sure, that's great. I love the quantitative language, Roshni. So 1,000 copies sold. Yeah, that's great. That's very useful notes. Okay. Janelle said the same. It looks like everybody's first goal is that 1,000 books sold. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. Grandma is proud. Okay. Sure. Okay, how could you make it better? Another book. Sell on the internet. Okay, fantastic. Now, when you have all of your notes, okay, so you only have that 1 minute, so you have to be fast. If you practice, you should be able to get about this many notes. So if you're confident, comfortable, you know what you're doing, then you should get this many notes. Now, I just want to ask students here, how many of you, when you're practicing your part 2 speaking, come up with 3 ideas, something like this one, and then also in the 1 minute have time for, let's say, almost as many notes as this, so like 8 to 10 notes. How many of you are doing this? So and be honest, say no or yes, I do it. So how many of you come up with the 3 ideas in the 1 minute, in the 1 minute? How many of you come up with the 3 ideas, visualize it, and then go through and write down about 8 to 10 short notes like this? Okay, Carolina says maybe about 5 notes. Carolina, that's good. Okay, 5 notes is a good start. Ghazal says, yes, I do. Catherine says, I get only about 5 notes on the paper. Yeah, okay, so 5 is not bad, students. If you're getting 5 down, that's not bad. If you can get that to closer to 8, it's a little bit better. And sometimes students ask me, should I write the notes in English or in my own language? The answer is in English. Okay, you should be writing your notes in English. It looks bad if you're writing notes in your own language, and it's not as useful for your thinking. So you should be putting it down in English. Okay. All right. So if you're only getting like a couple notes down, 2 to 3, then you have to practice more, of course, right? And you have to really push to get through the first parts of the first couple steps that I showed you faster. Okay. Just beer, idioms are not necessary to get a high score. They're useful, but they're not an absolute must. Okay. All right, and then I have one more step before my minute is up, and this can be very quick. It can be in your mind if you're used to this and you're practicing this. So step 5 is get your first sentence ready. Okay, so it must be a direct sentence that answers the topic statement. Okay? Don't waste time with general kinds of starts. Like, don't say thank you for giving me the opportunity, and don't say I got a lot of good ideas in school. Just start with the one idea that's useful. Okay? All right. So Carolina says, in 2000, a useful idea that I came up with in my home economics class when I was at school was to write my grandma's recipes and sell them as a cookbook. Carolina, that's a band 9 start. Okay, so if everybody's looking at Carolina's comment, that's how you would start a band 9 response in this part 2. In 2000, a useful idea I came up with from my home economics class was when I was thinking about writing my grandma's recipes and selling them down as a book after a cooking competition. Okay, so Carolina, that's a perfect kind of start. Hassan says, the best idea that I had in cooking class in 2015 is writing a book about my grandma's recipes. Perfect. Very nice, direct approach, Hassan. Good. Toby, you do not need to follow the cue card questions point by point. You just need to answer all the questions on the card. In fact, often it is not a good idea to try to answer them question by question because it won't make much sense. So it's better to use this strategy. Okay. Rajveer says, an extremely useful idea that I had in my graduation was to write down my grandma's recipes and sell it as a book. Very good, Rajveer. Cookbook, right? Always be precise. Cookbook. Okay. Niyashi says, last year when I completed my matriculation, I came up with a book, an idea to write my grandma's recipes. Make sure, Niyash, Iman, that you're including the topic, that it's an idea. Okay. Roshni says, an excellent and useful notion that I gained in home economics class back in 2015 was to write my grandma's recipes and sell them as a cookbook. Very good. Okay, very nice. Beckjohn says, the useful idea that I came up with during my school in 2006 after a cooking competition was writing my grandma's recipes and selling it as a cookbook. Okay, finish the idea, Beckjohn, as a cookbook. All right. So, best ideas that I gained from my home economics class back in 2000 was to write a cookbook from my grandma's recipes. Recipes. I don't know why I can't spell that word, but anyway, mental block, recipes. All right. Okay. Good thing I have to say it and not write it. All right. So again, a nice direct sentence to start it. Okay, so here we go. The examiner now says your 1 minute is up. Please begin speaking. So you have your first sentence ready and you start. One of the best ideas that I gained from my home economics class back in 2000 was to write a cookbook from my grandma's recipes. Okay, great. Violet, yes, you will. So Violet's asking, if I take a long time to think about my answers, if I don't start right away, do I lose points? Yeah, you can. You can lose fluency points. 1 minute should be way enough time to get going. Okay, so now all I want you to do, viewers, students, is to help me build this Band 9 response by using our notes and the questions on the card. So here I have my notes. I can use these. Hopefully I have some of them in mind. Don't just stare at your notes either, okay? Give me some more information that I can use and add to this, okay, using these notes. So Sarani says, during home economics, suddenly it came to my mind that it was very useful to publish my grandma's recipes into a cookbook. I don't know, Seni, if I would say suddenly it came into my mind. I think it's better to indicate a reason for it, like the teacher encouraged me after tasting the cookies that I made for homework, okay? All right. Mubina says, the marvelous idea I came up with during my school days in 2012 was to take part in a competition following my grandma's recipe cookbook. Okay, Mubina, it's still not clearly tied to the concept of the idea. In your first sentence, everyone, you have to include the topic that it's an idea. Okay, one of the best ideas or one of the most useful. In fact, I should correct this and be more accurate. One of the most useful. Okay, so when you have that topic sentence in the cue card, talk about a useful idea that you learned in school, make sure to include useful idea, okay, in your first sentence. So it's very clear for the examiner that you got what you're supposed to talk about, okay? One of the most useful ideas that I gained from my home economics class back in 2000 was to write a cookbook from my grandma's recipes, okay? All right. So, you're very welcome, Kamaljit. All right. Pachu says, a useful idea that I learned in school was about cookbook writing when I was in home science class. Yeah, Pachu, that would be a different approach. Rajveer says, a cooking competition was going on in my school, and I prepared a delicious chocolate cake and was praised by friends and teachers alike. Sure. So, a cooking competition was going on in school, and I had prepared a delicious chocolate cake following my grandma's special recipe. Okay. Sure. All right, just cleaning up the English a bit. Yeah, absolutely. So the origins, right? The origins of the idea. Okay, good. All right. Somebody was asking, how do I improve prepositions? That just comes through practice and through a lot of reading. Don't worry too much about prepositions, because even in different dialects of English, they change. Like British English on the weekend, or sorry, American English on the weekend, British English at the weekend. So, all right. Hassan says, I participated in a local cooking competition and I got an award for making the best pizza. And the chef told me that the pizza was the best they had ever tasted. Yeah, now Hassan, don't forget, it's school, right? It's your home economics class in school. So don't step out of character, students. Always stay with the original character. You're a student, you're in home economics class, you're coming up with this idea after a cooking competition, after getting praise from the teacher. Stay in character, okay? Your imagination or your movie has to make sense to your listener, okay? All right, so Pinti says the idea would be helpful to all the home cooks, as the recipes I had in the book were all the basic ones which could be cooked under 30 minutes. Pinti, I really like your use of quantitative language there. So the book would be helpful to all of the homemakers, as the recipes were all basic ones and delicious ones that could be cooked under 30 minutes. Okay, it's not bad, but here I would say a little bit more. Okay, so cooking competition was going on in school, and I had prepared a delicious chocolate cake following my grandma's recipe. It was loved by everyone, and my home economics teacher had advised me to write it down. Okay. All right. What kind of grammar am I using here a couple of times? So in this sentence and in this sentence, what kind of grammar am I using which is helping my score to go up? Because of course, as you know, or many of you know, the examiner is marking you on grammar range and accuracy. So what kind of, yeah, very good, Carolina. I'm using past perfect, right? I had prepared, okay? It was loved by everyone is passive. And then I'm using another past perfect, had advised me. So past perfect combined with a little bit of passive as well. And so my grammar accuracy and complexity is going up because I'm talking about events in the past. Of course, I had made the chocolate cake before the cooking competition. So I'm using past perfect. That's what you want to do. Okay? Very good. It's nice that many of you are recognizing that. Okay, fantastic. So that's what you want to do. All right. So in that moment, the idea was born in my mind to interview my grandma, Mary, and ask her about all of her tasty recipes. Okay. So, good. Rajveer says, to make this idea a reality, I needed the knowledge of ingredients and gather information related to the method of cooking. I noted these down on my computer. Very good. Okay. So, in order to make this idea a reality, I needed to find out about all of the ingredients and methods to prepare my grandma's famous dishes. Add some pictures, and I did this using my computer. Okay, fantastic. Bekjan says, it was favored by all critics. I decided to write down my grandma's recipes, which can be cooked in a short period of time. Good. Satinder says, shall I use past perfect and past continuous in the exam and then I'll get a high score? Satinder, only if it fits the context, okay? There is no magical rule, Satinder, that you have to use the past perfect or the continuous. It has to just be used naturally and correctly. In this case, these are events happening in the past, and it makes sense to use them in this way. Okay? Seni says, as appreciation, I dedicated some amount of the prize to publish my grandma's recipes, and it was booming. My grandma's recipes became famous around the world. Woo! Not even just the country, but the world. There you go, Seni, shooting for the stars. That's the way to do it. Romaine says, one feature I focused on was to have all the recipes involving just 4 ingredients. Okay, don't get lost in details, Romaine, but as long as you're speaking nice and fluently, it's okay to do that. Just don't get lost in details, okay? All right. Good, looking good, everyone. So, I'm doing a good job. I'm answering the question, what do I do at this point? So if I feel a little bit lost or I'm like, what should I say next? What do I do? Gazal, I'm happy you're liking the lesson. What should I do at this point? So if I'm like, what do I want to say? What's going on now? What do I do? Yeah, very good. So Carolina says, look at the notes. Right after, Roshni says, look at the cue card. So read your card, Catherine says. Yeah, absolutely. So don't forget to look at the card. see what you answered, see what you haven't, look at the notes, look at the card first, okay? So here we go. What was the idea? When and where did you learn it? Okay, we got this one. When and where? We kind of got this one. Who taught it to you? Okay, so it was taught to you by grandma and it was taught to you by your home economics teacher. Okay, so I might say something like, if I see that question, I might say something like the credit for this idea definitely goes to my home economics teacher who encouraged me throughout the process. Her name is Miss Francis, and I included a little bit about her at the end of the book. Okay, so that whole sentence just came to me by looking at that question, right? So you definitely want to make sure that you're answering all of the questions on the card. Okay, now I believe we had one more question there. I saw that. So how have you used it in your life? Okay, well, I made a cookbook with my grandma's recipes, fine. But we also had a couple of other great notes in here as well, right? Selling it on Amazon, selling 1,000 copies, paying for tuition. So I think this is where we could really use those notes, okay? Kamal is asking what topics are frequently asked. Kamal, it's impossible to know that. There are a million different questions for part 2, and they're always coming up with new ones and changing them for the IELTS. So instead of trying to guess what it will be, it's much more important to understand the right strategies when talking about people, places, ideas, events, and objects. Okay, that's what you want to practice. Okay, so let's get that going. So how was it useful in my life? The revenue from the book, around $100,000, paid for my grandma for her valuable contribution. Good start, Hassan. So you gave some money to grandma. She was able to go on a vacation to Hawaii. That's great. Margaret is asking, can I ask questions from the examiner during the speaking exam? Yes, you can, but they will not answer them. This is not an English as a second language test. It's an English proficiency exam. It's not the same. In ESL tests, you can ask questions about English. In English proficiency exams, you can't do that. The only thing you can do, Margot, is to ask for the question to be repeated. That's it. They may or may not repeat the question. It's up to the examiner. Okay? But they will not paraphrase and they will not explain questions in the exam. Okay? All right. PT says, I posted it on Twitter and Instagram. It went viral, so I decided to summarize it, publish it. Eventually, it succeeded in the marketplace, and now I've got lots of money for my tuition and even lots for grandma to retire and go on vacation. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Rajveer says, not only did this idea improve my cooking skills, but also it made thousands of dollars by selling over 1,000 copies, and I used some of this money to travel to Switzerland. Very good, Rajveer. Okay. Maybe after this class, we'll have a lot of cooking books on the way. Okay. All right. Oa says I could get a monthly income of about $500, and that helps me to cover my college fees. Very good. So, this has been a very useful idea from school because it led to selling over 10,000 copies of the book. Not only do I use this income to pay for my tuition, but I also share it with my grandma, and she uses the royalties to go on a nice vacation each year. Okay, fantastic. So that is your high-level response. Let's go through this. Practice speaking, students. Repeat after me nice and fluently. So one of the most useful ideas that I gained from my home economics class back in 2000 was to write a cookbook with my grandma's recipes. A cooking competition was going on in school, and I'd prepared a delicious chocolate cake following my grandma's special recipe. It was loved by everyone, and my home economics teacher had advised me to write it down. In that moment, the idea was born in my mind to interview my grandma, Mary, and ask her about all of her tasty recipes. In order to make this idea a reality, I needed to find out about all the ingredients and methods to prepare my grandma's famous dishes, and some pictures. And I did this using my computer. The credit for this idea definitely goes to my home economics teacher who encouraged me throughout the process. Her name is Miss Francis, and I included a little bit about her at the end of the book. This has been a very useful idea from school because it led to selling over 10,000 copies of the book. Not only do I use this income to pay for my tuition, but I also share it with my grandma, and she uses the royalties to go on a nice vacation each year. One improvement, or should I say addition, to this is to ask my other grandma so I can write a second book. Smiley face emoji. Okay, so that's going back, of course, to how can the idea be improved or what more can be done, right? And I would say that if the examiner doesn't stop me. So if the examiner doesn't stop me, if they give me a little bit more time to express myself, then I will include something about how I can develop the idea further and what else I might do with it in the future. Okay? All right, students, so that's what you need to do in part 2. That's what you need to do in order to stay focused, to plan, and then to get that perfect band 9. Maybe it sounds really tricky. Maybe it sounds simple. Either way, it takes a lot of practice, okay? And you have to go through the same kinds of steps, of course, with different content and a little bit different structure for people, places, objects, and events. Don't try to guess exactly what the card will be. That won't work. Just be prepared for any 5 of these categories, okay? All right, Rajveer's happy about that. I'm glad. Niesh says, that's great. You're very welcome, Roshni. You're very welcome, Eugene. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, everybody. Tomorrow, you will see a new speaking interview on our channel with a gentleman from Indonesia. So look out for that tomorrow. Much love to all of you. Make sure to get all our videos, books, strategies in your premium package at aehelp.com for academic, glshelp.com for general. And I'm wishing you a fantastic evening. If it's late in your country, sweet dreams. Get recharged. Much love to all of you from Central Europe. Bye for now. I'm Adrian.